Over the years, I've been asked several times to describe my favorites or to pick this gun over that. And while I don't like doing that because I think favorite is a very subjective thing, and I absolutely despise the clickbaity top 5 this, top 5 that list that I see out there on the internet all the time. They're usually there just to push you something. I do understand the validity of that question. I've reviewed over 500 firearms using the same protocol for all of them, and spent more than 60 days in various training courses from the Russian Spetsnaz Center T to ITTS with LAPD Metro SWAT instructors to Thunder Ranch, front sight, all of that kind of stuff. So I've got a lot of experience with a lot of guns, and I think it's probably time I give you some favorites. So how do we set a favorite? Well, there's a lot of different categories, and one of you commented some good ideas for categories that kind of got me thinking and chewing on things. So I went back through and looked at the videos YouTube hadn't deleted, and found about 35 firearms that just really stood out for one reason or another, but there's lots of different ways that those things can stand out. So I broke them down into categories, and I will break that down into videos and articles. The articles, of course, will be the pinned comment as always. That's where you'll find a little more detail, sources for the things, stuff like that, and maybe links to full reviews. Categories I have so far are range use, general purpose, fun, performance, carry, 1911, striker-fired guns, guns I learned stuff with, although I have already kind of done a series on that, and hammer-fired guns. Today we'll be going over the fun ones, and there should be a separate video and article for each of these. So we're going to get into these. These are in no particular order, other than just as I saw them and jotted them down in the list. I'm not picking a favorite out of the favorites, if you will, at least not yet. I just want to go through these categories, and some of these guns qualified for more than one category because they're just great. Maybe that's your answer as far as favorites of favorites. And one of them that popped up first was the Tisas tanker model. This is totally, absolutely not what is in mode. We have an all-metal, single stack 9mm 1911 that is not red dot ready, does not have a rail, and has better than original GI, but not much beyond basic sights. It's not got an ambidextrous safety, just has some minor upgrades on it. But I found this thing to be loads and loads of fun. It gives you the look and feel of a World War II era 1911 with just minimal updates on it for basic reliability and quality of life as a shooter, but otherwise takes us back to classic 1911s. It's a nice shooter. The trigger on it, pretty darn good. The Cerakote, or whatever coating they did to make this gray that looks a lot like the phosphate or parkerizing type finish of the originals, is smooth, which is awesome because it's not pitting, like full of little pockets of things to collect moisture and rust, but it also did something with the action, which makes me think it's Cerakote because it's got kind of a gummy slip to it, but it's just enough gumminess to cut down on recoil a little bit and just enough slick to keep it still running. So it makes for a really fun gun to shoot, and it's really affordable. And I gotta say, the practical side of me says I have no need for a single stack 9mm 1911. I live in a mostly free state, so I don't have to worry about capacity limitations, things like that. If I was gonna go with limited capacity, I would want something with different sights on it, maybe a rail, etc. There's no purely practical reason to like this gun, but it sure is a lot of fun to use on the range, and I really enjoy it for that. So that's what it ended up in the fun list. The next one is a recent review, and that is the Bersa M2XI. Now this guy, a bit more practical or a bit more use besides just having fun on the range. We've got a double stack 9mm 1911 that is optics ready and does have some rail slots. Steel frame construction with, of course, the polymer grip. Just a really handsome, nice looking piece that shot really well. It is a bull barrel. I can't point directly at the camera, otherwise YouTube will think that I'm gonna transfer lead through the screen. I don't know. But AV controls, all the things that people are looking for in today's double stack 1911s. And overall a really nice shooter. Also US made and really affordable for a US made gun. They've even extended the slide release on it to make it a little more friendly to those who did not grow up on 1911s and learn so this is the method I learned, even though my hands can generally reach. Magazine comes in, thumb rolls up, hit the slide release. That's how you do a 1911 without having to need an extension or break your grip or rotate your hand or any of that funky stuff. If I was taught that 20 plus years ago, I'm sure I wasn't the first. Neither was my instructor. I don't know how that lesson got lost over time. But anyways, it's an extended release on this guy, so you won't have to worry about that. It was a lot of new to double stack 1911 friendly features, minus the full length guide rod. That's the one downfall, but everyone asks for a full length guide rod and then everyone complains about full length guide rods. It does require a tool for disassembly, but other than that, not bad. But a really sharp looking, nice performing. I do need to take it back out to the range. I was having a bad eyesight day that range day, and despite that nice bright front sight post, my eye just wouldn't focus on it that day. So the accuracy that I presented on camera in that review does not reflect the accuracy, the mechanical capabilities of this gun. It was just a bad day. But overall, something that you could, compared to most other double stack 1911s, a very affordable gun that you can take out and enjoy, but also has a pride piece. Nothing about the appearance, look, or feel of this screams budget gun. It feels like a really nice gun. And it's just a good time on the range. 5-inch 9mm are some of the softest shooting guns out there. The recoil impulse slows down to kind of a gallop, which takes a little bit of getting used to. Used to be one of my favorite recoil impulses, and thanks to a recent string of reviews, kind of fallen back into it. And all that combined makes the Bersa M2XI one of my favorite fun guns. This little guy, the VZ61 Skorpion, yes, I do have a brace set up on here, or actually technically it's a monopod, not a brace on this, on a folding adapter, so that I can be a little bit safer with the practically non-existent sights that are set for 95 meters or 450 meters, because that's what you want to shoot 380 at with, right? Yes, this is 380, that's why I have the straight mag instead of the signature curve mag, which makes Skorpions look all the cooler. I went 380 because it's more available, more powerful, and less expensive than 32 ACP, the original caliber of the VZ61 Skorpion. These were a Czechoslovak tanker and support personnel kind of submachine gun thing. They kind of became cool again with the Avenger movies because the Winter Soldier had one they loved to spray with. Before that, they were in some of the Bond movies. I forget what they called it, so the Bond video games. But in real life, they are loads of fun to shoot. Top eject, you see that ejection port there. You can see right through. And these charging handles do reciprocate. These little nubs fly back and forth. So you got to keep your thumb out of the way for that, which can be a bit of a challenge. But almost zero recoil and sending brass straight up in the air. There's a giggle factor that comes with it, especially when you put a can on it, because this is a threaded barrel version. That can extra back pressure sends that brass even higher. In some of my old videos you can see, and in fact, Shooting Mind inspired Oragear to get his. He's got plenty of footage of it too. Brass goes, it's got to be 15 feet in the air, maybe higher, spinning so quickly when you've got a can on it that the air passing over the opening of the casing causes a buzz. And so you hear this zzz as the stuff goes up and then comes back down, sometimes directly on top of you. It's silly fun. Love this thing. I'd shoot it more often if I could. However, my local range has a policy that if it can be supported by a third point of contact, i.e. shouldered, that it must be fired at the 100-yard rifle bay. And so I have to go to the 100-yard rifle bay with my 3-inch 380, which isn't as much fun. So that means going out to the woods to find a spot where you can really have fun with it. Really cool thing. This is a new production, at least it was when I bought it, but they are still producing them. Czech Small Arms is the company to look for. They're Not terribly expensive. I mean, at least for me, it's kind of a toy. However, I will say that when all those quote-unquote peaceful protests were going on, and I had to drive through urban areas, I discovered that this collapsed fits in my center console. And my thought was this presents a bit more of a visual deterrent than a standard sidearm. Looks a little bit more serious, even though technically this is less powerful than your average modern 9mm carry gun if you're carrying a proper barrel length. But Vz 61 Skorpion, loads of fun. It is just a giggle factory. So much fun to take out. I wish that I wasn't lazy and would go through the NFA paperwork to SBR it and put the actual original wire folding stock on here. But this monopod on the back end seems to work just fine. And it makes for a pretty fun gun. My one complaint though, of the black plastic grip, I tried to swap to an original wooden grip and it wouldn't fit for some reason. Maybe I just didn't figure it out right, but it's a cool gun. Definitely a top favorite fun gun. Here's one that hasn't been on the channel in a long time, even though I reviewed a couple different versions of them. I still have a few of them. The Freedom Ordnance FX9. The boring part, it's a straight blowback AR-9 that takes Glock magazines. The cool part, you notice how short those receivers are. That's because the receiver is actually properly sized for 9mm. You know, there's a lot of AR-9s out there. They're fun for a bit until you realize that blowback 9 tends to have equal or greater recoil than 5.56. Back when 5.56 was much less expensive to shoot, it kind of lost its point. But now that it's gotten more expensive, the AR-9 is returning. Now this one's been modified a bit. I've run all kinds of stuff through it. I've got one of those cool pistol storage devices on it, which is not a stock and not a brace and has its own letter. This is the mid-length one. I have the carbine and I have the super shorty. But what I thought was cool about this was that they shrunk the receiver. And then it just makes for a fun compact package. When you shave, these receivers are about an inch shorter than a standard AR receiver. When you shave that inch off, it makes a difference. Despite what she tells you, an inch does make a difference. So it was just a lot of fun. And I have some accessories on this one. Don't have an optic anymore, don't know where the thread protector went. It's got rust on the steel because this thing has been through some stuff, and it's from the days when I just shot and shot and shot back when ammo was cheap. And maybe that's part of my fondness memory of the FX9, but these are still out there and Freedom Ordnance is still advancing some of their designs. I'd love to see them figure out something beyond direct blowback, which they have on the belt fed, just to tame it a little bit, because there's other stuff out there nowadays that shoots softer, such as what kind of became my more modern fun AR-9-ish thing, the Extar EP9. These are polymer receivers, so they're super lightweight. They weigh around, I think it was 4 pounds or something like that. Super affordable because Extar makes almost everything in-house and they don't distribute or sell to retailers, only direct from their site. So that lets them, there's no middleman markups basically. And their action, though it is blowback, is a little bit different. They have done some tweaks, some little secrets inside that make it shoot a whole lot softer. Also Glock magazine fed. These receivers are also not standard AR receivers. You can't just swap the upper or the lower. Despite how many times I've said that in videos, people still ask. But a very affordable, very practical, very smooth shooting, fun, large format pistol. Which is pretty cool. They've now expanded into some other calibers and they have carbines, things like that. You guys can check out the site to figure out what all they've got. But just something that it's so lightweight and so affordable, you almost don't want to respect it. But when you shoot it and realize what you can do with it, it's quite the system. Extar EP9 is just a good time at the range. The Derya Melik took me kind of by surprise. As you know, I'm an Army veteran. I served with the M9. I spent a few years of that time as an armorer and came to really not like the M9. Turns out it wasn't the platform, it was just old worn out guns that weren't properly maintained. Over the years, I've had a couple of Beretta 92 clone guns in for review, and none of them were particularly magical. They were kind of rough. The Derya Melik, I don't know, but I do like the Melik. Changed that. Really, really smooth action, a nice trigger, and like most 5-inch 9mm, especially when you have so much less reciprocating mass with that open top slide, it's a really soft shooter. And I found this thing just to be a good, comfortable gun to spend on the range. Now, the 92s are a bit thick by many people's opinions. Sorry if your hand size is too small. This is maybe a mid-sized to large-size hand type of gun. But this thing's been in a couple roundups because it just really, really impressed me, and I had a great time with it. And there's nothing fancy on it. It's not red dot ready. It doesn't have a rail. It doesn't have any of that stuff. But just to go out and enjoy shooting and be comfortable shooting, this has been a great choice. Here's another that I haven't busted out in a long, long time. Notice that bolt is different. Largely because 410 ammo costs so darn much. But this is the ATI Omi Maxx 410. It is an AR-15. Now it's using the Omi Maxx lower receiver, which is polymer, of course. But with their magazines, their upper, and their buffer setup, you can run 410 shot shells out of an AR. And that is loads of fun. You can tell this thing's old because it's got key mod handguard on it. But loads of fun and very utilitarian, I guess you could say, in that throw slugs in it and you've got yourself a decent short-range rifle. Put anything else in it and you've got yourself a lightweight portable shotgun. Now this is before Genesis Arms had the Gen 12 created and before the AR-looking shotguns became a thing. So at the time, or at least for me, this was the way to run 410 out of an AR, which I thought was loads of fun. I wish 410 ammo was more readily available and more affordable so I could take this out more. This was a really early gun in the reviews. I've still get lots of comments and questions about this. I've heard horror stories of people having a terrible time with theirs. This one has been great. As I understand it, the actual manufacturing of these has changed a few times. The importers certainly have as well. And so the one that I have here may not be the same thing that you can buy today. And I don't have a solid answer as to how to get the same thing that I got. I'm sorry. I've seen 410 uppers and magazine sets at some of the graveyard of guns like CD&N and places like that where they blow out things. I don't know off the top of my head if ATI is currently still listing something like this or if someone else has taken it over. But a really cool concept. I think it was probably killed by clones and knockoffs that didn't perform as well as the one that I have does. Plus the challenge of 410 ammo just costing so darn much. You know, it was never cheap, but back when ammo prices were lower, it was definitely lower as well, and that made it a lot more easy to enjoy this. But if you had a pile of 410, this is definitely a great way to have some fun.
Thank you to our Patreon supporters, GB Guns and I Do Too Level, Tom Moises S, Algie Brian P, David F. Derek S. Jr., Donald H. Fast Eddie, Gary B. George H. Greg K. Joseph T, Marvin P. Peter A, Rick Scott King, Talo 215, Jenna I, can see techno